What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Manifested Dream Show, where we're bridging the gap between action and information as it pertains to real estate investing through real estate investors in their personal journey before they got into the business, things that they went through as children to growing into the the amazing minds that they are now. I'm really excited to introduce you guys to everybody that I have lined up. And I'm super excited about tonight because not only is it the first episode, we're in New York City and our investor is from Brooklyn. So it's really big. I'm excited to introduce you to him and his story. Laquan Williams.
What's going on, bro?
Everything's good, man. Thank you for coming out tonight, man.
No problem.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here.
Oh, for sure, man.
Get this thing going with you.
Get this thing going. I think that, when I was thinking about doing the show, my main focus was just trying to get people to understand that the optics, the visuals that they see, whether it's Instagram, whether it's TV, or just through word of mouth, that's just a small portion of what it takes to just be a real estate investor. It's more of the mental and more of the, the journey, more of the mind state and how you approach everything, not just real estate investing, but everything that makes a successful investor, because there's a lot of moving parts. But before we dive into what you're doing now, as far as real estate investing, I want to start with the early years. You're from Brooklyn. Why don't you tell us exactly where you're from in Brooklyn and what was it like coming up? How many siblings did you have? What was the household like? What was your reality, man?
I grew up Bed-Stuy, Brownsville, Brooklyn. Of course, 80s, 90s. So not the Brooklyn now. Not the gentrified Brooklyn.
Yeah.
All sisters, pretty much all women in my house.
Okay.
And so it was not too rough, but it was rough enough where you learned what you needed to learn in the house, in the streets, and kind of in school to kind of push you to be that tough person that you needed to be at those times.
Got you. So you saying it's interesting. I feel like majority of black males, our families are matriarchal families. It's majority women, and I think that doesn't get enough credit for the strength that's given in to a lot of us as young men, for sure, because women are some of the strongest people walking this earth.
Definitely.
So I think that's cool. So what as you're coming up and you're learning from your family and your cousins and those matriarchal members of your family, what was it that got you into that hustle? When did you find your hustle gift and knew that was like getting money was something that you knew that you wasn't gonna attach yourself to?
Well, that started more so when I got away from like my mom and being around my family and being able to be outside. So the first few years of like growing up, my mom would send me down south for the summer, whether it was Atlanta, North Carolina, Virginia, because she was working, I'm out of school, so it's like no place for us to be.
Okay.
So she would send us down south to be with my grandmother and my other cousins for the summer. Okay. So it wasn't until I was like 13, 14 and I really had say-so, and I was like, nah, I'm not going back.
Gotcha.
And then it was just like, all right, so what you gonna do? It's like, all right, I'm gonna go chill with my cousins over here. I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna go do that. And then that led to me being out and about more.
Okay.
And kind of being around like my uncles and my cousins and everybody that was finding their way. Whether it was, selling CDs or, selling cars, and no matter what the hustle was, they were doing it, they was getting it done, but nobody really had jobs. Okay. So it kind of showed me a different light, that it was just like, there's other ways to kind of do things and get things done, and you doing it on your own time,
right.
So that's kind of like what opened my eyes to kind of being like, okay, so what am I gonna do?
Got you. So those the women in your family, again, as you were separating yourself, even though they're sending you, away to kind of, for time's sake, how did they feel about you actually applying that to just wanting to not only just not work, because I'm sure they held jobs and they worked a 9 to 5. How did they respond to you as you're like spending time away from the house and you're like, hey, look, I don't want to work per se, I want to work for me. What was that reaction like? And did you have a hard time?
Yeah. I was like kind of like the black sheep.
Okay.
Like I was that kid, because they like, everybody thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, what do you, like, you got to go to school, you got to do this, you got to get a job, you got to do this. Like that whole life of the growing up, working 9 to 5, and just all of that structure that kind of was passed down to them. Yeah. I wasn't trying to inherit that.
Got you.
You know, it was just like, all y'all do is work and come home, you're tired and this and that,
Yeah.
and you still can't afford much. I'm like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Not when I feel like there's entrepreneurs, there's people out there finding ways, you know?
Yeah.
And then I started like really studying, like I'm looking at music, I'm watching entertainment, I'm watching different shows. I'm like, there's different ways to do this. Like, we don't have to just work a regular job.
Right.
And everybody thought I was crazy up until it happened.
Yeah, it's the craziest thing. Hearing you say that is just the perception is reality thing. We hear that all the time, but it doesn't matter the setting. It doesn't matter the setting. That's really like, this is just the truth. You know, when in Rome, you do what the Romans do.
Exactly.
So you're watching the guys and your cousins, your uncles, like you said, they're selling cars, they're selling whatever it is to avoid having to work for somebody, work for themselves. So would you say that naturally, that's just because there's a kid that you could put in that same situation and is gonna say, hey, look, I'm not, you know, that's not for me. Do you think that that's something that you're born with? Or do you think that that's something that based off of your personality, you saw it and just was like, no, this fits me? Mm-hmm. How would you know the difference?
I think it's both.
Okay.
People that are born with it, a lot of times what holds them back is really like the courage and the, I would say just the drive to kind of get there. Because I know a lot of people who have it and they just won't use it, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like, bro, just let off, go, do it, you know? And they won't do it. And then for some, it's just about them outworking those people that's born with it, you know? And then I feel like I'm both. I was kind of born with it, and I'm gonna outwork you like I don't have it.
Right.
So it's like, you can't stop it.
So that's like a double-edged sword.
Exactly.
It's a double-edged sword. I mean, at 13, just to say, because I think as long as I've known you, and it's you know, our relationship is growing, I can say we have commonalities in certain areas, right? And I think the main thing is just the last part, what you just said, is that drive, and having that in you to know you're gonna work a little smarter. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna use this, hey, that guy that has it a little bit, I'm gonna work just a little bit harder and do what I gotta do to cut it. So at 13, that's unique.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's unique. So you're 13, let's push back up, let's push forward rather, like 18, 19, 20. So now the money's different. The money that you want is different. You're seeing your peers, I'm sure they're doing different shit. You know, they're doing different things. It's what was the next phase as far as you, Laquan, as a grown man, to live independently completely, that kept that balance?
It was, by there, I felt like I had to find my thing to make the money, because I was at the age to where it's just like, I no longer could depend on anybody.
Okay.
So I'm like, all right, I gotta find out what's for me, what works for me. And what I always had was the niche to know kind of, okay, I'm watching my surroundings. I see kind of what's going on. What do we have? Like, what's our thing?
Okay.
What's our benefits? What's our strengths?
Okay.
So like me and like my friends that was around me, I'm looking at our strengths, our weaknesses, like ways we can make money, and it's legit. It's something that we all could benefit from.
Okay.
And what we had was, growing up, a lot of the older guys, going off doing whatever they were doing, they grew a lot of fame and popularity in Brooklyn and in the surrounding areas.
So name will ring bells.
Yeah,
Got
so
you.
with us, it's kind of like, okay, so let's do parties. Because the older guys that I was around, a lot of them, well, a few of them were doing parties to host those people, you know?
Okay.
So for us, it was just like, well, we're popular at our age group with the teens, the early 20s, so let's do parties as well.
Okay.
And for us getting up $1,000 to like book a hall to do parties and buy the liquor and everything like that, it was still a lot of money, you know, at like, probably it was like 16, 17. Like, we really didn't have that much money yet. So we just all put a little bit of money together and we booked our first party.
Gotcha.
And from that first party, it was just no looking back. I was like, all right, this is it. Like,
The grounds, you already, you feeling it, you liking the feeling.
Yeah, we definitely gotta just do our own thing. Like, I always knew that, and it was just like, all right, we found something to at least propel us to that level of what we really want to do.
So I wanna backtrack again, just so that people that are watching can understand. You're 13, you get around some people that are hustling and they're getting money. And at 13, all the way up to 16, maybe even 18, you're saying that you and your friends came together and you're putting your money together to get money. So that concept, it doesn't stick for some reason when it comes to odd people a lot of times. It doesn't stick, but that concept you're saying through the 80s, through the 90s, just like now, it works. It works. So let's talk about your circle. Your people around you, like you're around those 18, 20 years old. How did you delegate your friends? How did you say, okay, I'm not on that time, I'm on this time? What age was that? And did you lose any relationships in between that? And how did you deal with it?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely did.
Okay.
It was just the friends that you're around, and it's like, all right, you to the time where it's just like everybody's at like the high school level.
Okay.
And it's like, all right, either you with the guys that's gonna go to school and y'all kind of want to do the right thing and find the right way, or it's the other group that's just not going to school. They just want to chill, smoke, drink, party, do whatever. And I'm like, what's the point? You know? I'm like, I could do that on the weekends. I could do that after I make money. We could party at our own parties and get paid to do it. So it's kind of like, to me, it was just like the rational of like what's kind of makes sense, you know? So I kind of drew towards the guys, even if they wasn't as popular as those guys, they had the drive, they had the know-how, so they would outwork those guys. Okay. So it was just like, look, as long as we put the right crew together, we could outwork the most popular crew, the crew that got the money because they lazy, the crew that got the talent. So I just drew more so towards the people that were just like-minded and goal-driven and knew we could kind of get it done. Got you.
So you're talking about void of a couple of things. Void of ego, void of how much money who's making, we're not pocket watching. It's just towards the goal of making money, but before that, the personality. Right. What do you think, why do you think it's hard for people, anybody, any race, any group to separate themselves from their friends because, hey, maybe you're not on the same time that I'm on all the way. Why do you think people hold on? And do you feel, have you seen anybody or known anybody, or have you been victim of holding on to a relationship where it's not beneficial to anything positive that I have going on? And what advice would you give to somebody like that?
I would say that the main reason people try to hold on is because you kind of want to reward the people that was there from the beginning. Okay. You know, and at least if you part ways, put them in a position to where they can kind of feed their family and go off on their own, even if y'all kind of growing apart, you know? Gotcha. So that's the first instance, and that's speaking from experience because that's how it was for me at times, and it still is. As you grow into different fields and different levels, everybody's not going to be able to go with you, you know? Yeah. And I would say that it just comes from you having more drive than others, you wanting more than others. Some people, they get complacent and they just get comfortable with a certain portion of, you know, what they have, and that's completely okay. That's what makes you happy. But for me, it's like the money amount doesn't make me happy. Me being financially free doesn't make me happy, or being able to travel or do whatever. It's just about me being able to just kind of just live out what I want to do, the things that I want to experience, and to not only kind of just be a part of things, but to kind of make a difference, to leave a legacy, to kind of set a foundation of, you know, just a roadmap of what can be done. Like if you just don't stop and just keep going. So you bring up legacy at the end. I want to talk about what you want your book to be, but you just happened to bring it up before I could. We're gonna dive into your first intro into real estate. But before we do that, I want to highlight a couple of things for people that are watching and understand. Again, 13 years old, unique mind, unique presence, realizing what was different about you versus other kids, and applying that from that age. And at 16, doing the same thing. It's not about judging people. It's not about, you know, anything that our culture tends to push on us as young men that we think we have to be. You're sitting there as a young man being that same kid that's just unique to bring people together to get some money, to bring or be around people that are doing what you want to do. So, you know, before real estate, actually, you got a couple of stores, you got a couple of venue spaces, I got a couple of businesses. Venues, you got a couple of businesses. So, and I'm sure, you know, by the time we met, you already had those established. So when did it get to that level? After the parties, after you and your boys coming together, when did it get to the venues? When did it get to the businesses, the locations? That wasn't until,
And drop the address too. Use this as a feel-free moment to promo and segue.
That wasn't until the last 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I would say 2016. I just felt like it wasn't enough, you know? To me, it's just like, I feel like I'm gonna have a problem because nothing is enough.
Nothing's enough,
It's like,
yeah.
I just wanna keep going, I wanna do more, I wanna be able to reach new levels, and then when I get to a certain level with one business, I wanna put it on autopilot and just let it go and then just get into another thing. And it's kinda like, for me, it's like kinda like art. It's just like you just paint one picture, you frame it, you hang it up, and
Let
then
it
you
dry,
move on to the
go
next
to the next one.
you know?
Yeah.
And so it started off with the parties, like you said, 13 to 16, 13 to like 18, 19. And so that was like Brooklyn, Manhattan, just kind of doing that stuff. And then it came to the point I was making so much money. I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do with it now?
Yeah.
You know, like what's the next step? So then I met a guy who was into real estate. And he was going through like a divorce, and he needed to offload some houses.
Okay.
So he knew, like, you know, I was into business, me and a few of my boys, and he was just like, yo, you ever thought about real estate? So I did like a short stint of like working construction because I don't like formal jobs.
Okay.
So
like actually doing the construction work.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
man,
yeah.
okay.
So I did like a short stint with like construction work, and then I'm just like, nah, this isn't it, because I was free during the day,
Okay.
and then I would have the party stuff at night.
Okay.
So I always knew my family was like, look, you gotta have coverage, healthcare, this, that. So at least have the job, you know, work it, whatever, and you know, do your entrepreneurial stuff at night. So I'm like, all right, cool, it makes sense, you know. So I did that, and then that's actually how I met the guy.
Okay.
Because he used to work there, and he owned a few houses. So what happened was I ended up kind of acquiring a house from him, the first house from him.
Where was the house?
Albany.
In Albany.
Albany, New York.
Albany. Wow. I went to school in Buffalo.
Okay.
I went to school in Buffalo, so I'm familiar with the area. So
this is 2005.
2005. Okay. So
yeah,
what's the
so-
market like in Albany in 2005?
The market.
What are you purchasing exactly?
You could purchase houses anywhere from like 25 to 50,000,
Okay.
and they're reselling for 80 to 100.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. With how much work we talking about at the time? How extensive was that construction, being that it's your first deal?
Well, that particular deal, the construction wasn't that extensive.
Okay.
It was more so just come in, just repair a bunch of sheetrock. The plumbing was pretty good, the electrical was pretty good.
Okay.
So we just had to kind of update all of the appliances, update the bathrooms. We had good hardwood floors down, so we just kind of stripped those down, repolished them, and finished out the basement.
And when you say we, because you just went from working the site to actually having a team, or how did that come together?
Yeah, so what he did, he actually queued me in with his team.
Okay, so you went from being on the team to coaching the team.
Right. So
Okay.
yeah, he just queued me in with his guys, and he's just like, look, they're gonna help you, set you out with this and that. And then after this one, like, you know, we'll talk about the next one and what we can do that.
Okay, so that's a hell of an intro.
Yeah.
You know, that's a hell of an intro. So you're looking up to somebody who's been doing it. They have not only the experience but the property and the team to jump on. So we're gonna talk more just like about the legacy, just about putting your team together on a new level, because we saw how your team developed itself. You became a part of a team at one point, and then you put your own team together for parties, and then later on, again, you got put in on a team, and then you put your own team together. So how important is it to know your role and know that what's in your heart? You're a leader at heart, but as a leader, a lot of times people overlook that learning process, or that like, yo, I'm not leading right now, I'm just learning. Was that hard for you at any point? And what advice would you have for people if how to learn from people, how to sit back, how to take a seat back, even if you've been an all-star your whole life, how to take a seat back and learn? So those two questions.
Well, I would say the best teachers are always the best students.
Okay.
You know, so you have to be a good student to be a good teacher, and you gotta know that you gotta be able to do the work if you want to dictate the work. You know.
Gotcha.
So if because I think that's where the problem lies, when people try to dictate work, and the guys that actually know the work, that's doing the work, realize that this guy doesn't even know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So for me, it's important for me to kind of learn the foundation of things, to kind of get an understanding of it, to know what my guys have to go through to get it done, how long it's gonna take, you know, the price it costs for this, and
all the nuances, all of the
everything.
Surprises, everything.
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 So for me, it's just like get in the dirt, kind of get dirty with the guys, learn it. Everybody wants to skip that stage because now it's like it's the Instagram stage where everything is just a 60
Instant gratification.
Video. Right.
Instant gratification.
And it's like, all right, you want that end result, but you don't want to put in the work to kind of get there. So if you just hire guys, how do you even know the right guys from the wrong guys?
Right.
You want to learn on the job, it gets costly, you know?
Yeah.
So don't make the mistake of feeling like you have to kind of reach that high level, I would
Automatically.
say. Automatically.
Yeah.
Just go through the small processes, and if, you know, learn one thing at a time, no matter what the field is. If it's 10 points to it, 10 things to do, learn one at a time.
Okay.
And then once you learn all 10 and kind of study all 10, you know how to do them yourself, then you could outsource that stuff and get it done. And then that's how you build your team.
That's how you build a team.
Yeah, to me.
Okay, so that's a gem. Like, people understand, a lot of times I work with investors where they have none of what you just mentioned. None of what you just mentioned, but they come to me and they want me to make magic happen, you know? And it's just like, they don't want to take the time to do the things that are behind the scenes. Like you just said, that's a learning curve, man.
Yeah,
that's a learning curve. It's a big, big learning curve that's necessary for everybody. Just let's use athletes as an example, right? If you're an athlete, you're the best in your city from when you're a kid to when you get to college. But when you get to the pros, none of that shit matters, man. Because you got to relearn a whole new culture, a whole new system where, hey, we getting money here, we're making money here, and you're just an addition to it. You know what I'm saying? So in your addition to it, your reality is controlled by how your attitude is towards it. So after you do this first flip, which is like I said, that's a hell of an intro into it. How do you work your way back towards the city? And what was that first experience like, getting that first deal in Jersey, I'm assuming? Or was it DC?
Yeah, so it actually didn't even happen like that. So
Okay.
after that, I kind of got, everything was moving at a rapid pace to where it was like, I was interested in a lot of different things.
Okay.
So I ended up actually coming back and opening a recording studio.
Really?
Right, because a few of my guys, they were into music.
Okay.
So for me, it's about the team. You know?
So you're looking at the team, you're seeing the potential.
Right.
Okay, and you open up in Brooklyn.
Yeah, in Brooklyn.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
so I started a recording studio in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Just because for my guys that they also didn't want to work. You know, they weren't into construction. They didn't have the business mind, but they were into music.
Gotcha.
So I'm like, all right, cool. It's a 2-for-1. I could rent out the studio when they're not there recording. And when they're recording, you know, our team is benefiting from it.
Got you.
You know?
Got you.
So I opened up the recording studio for them. So I took some time off. We opened up the recording studio, and I kind of put that on autopilot as well.
Okay.
And at the same time, I'm kind of like ending out the party thing and transitioning over because I'm spending so much time out of town doing the houses that I only could be back during like the weekends.
Got you.
So
Got you.
the party thing really took the back seat, and I didn't really have to kind of be there anymore.
Okay.
And it was like I had what I needed to kind of keep going and get started.
Okay.
Because I knew for that, it wasn't something that could last forever.
So you basically, the party scene was your turnkey business. All you had to do was be Laquan. That was going to do what it had to do. You didn't have to be there. So now as you're transitioning, how does the mental change as it becomes solely just real estate? Is it the same attitude? Is it the same approach? Is it the same vibe? Because it seems like there's a pattern there that I'm trying to highlight. So what do you think it is?
It took a lot of like kind of growing up because it wasn't as easy.
Really? So was it the ego with the letting go, or was it what was it that made it hard?
No, it was now because it became more political.
Okay.
You know, because with real estate now, it's like you have to be in these offices downtown,
Right.
permits, dealing with different people, as far as like
Oh,
inspections.
you mean as far as getting solely into
Yeah,
real estate?
to
Okay,
get into
I
real
was
estate.
talking about holding on. So you're talking about completely cutting the
Yeah.
umbilical cord with the parties and focusing
Yeah, because
on real
now
estate.
I had to be up early. I gotta kind of be accountable for
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And it's like one thing wrong, and you kind of fumble in everything,
So you're from Brooklyn. Brooklyn. Our reality is I grew up in Harlem, between Harlem, Jersey, and the Bronx, right? So our reality into corporate, that's considered corporate,
exactly.
when that intro, it can mess you up because you got what you've done in your life, and you walking into an office now where there's a structure, or in real estate where there's a structure, there's a plan. So did you have any situation that people could learn from that you walked away where you knew you were wrong, and you knew, like, okay, what was it that you did that made you wrong, if so, and how did you walk away from that to become better to go forward?
From at the beginning, with the beginning, it was the big mess up was paperwork.
Okay.
So I tell people a lot of times, get your paperwork together, and it was.
I got to segue into a joke. So, I broke out hard money, right? And one of the first things, and one of the last things I think he told me was, I'll get the deal done, but I don't like paperwork. I'm hands off with paperwork. So you're not lying.
Yeah.
And so I just had to take that jab at you, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not with paperwork. Like, I'm like the real hands-on guy. I want to be able to get stuff done.
Work with your hands,
Right.
touch it.
Like, be out and about, but I want to make sure the paperwork is good, but I don't want to have to keep doing paperwork because I feel like I have a real job, like a 9-to-5 job.
Your purpose is, that's not aligning with
it's not. I feel like I'm at a restraint now, and I have to, I'm back in school.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I just need to be able to just do one thing and then automate it. I don't like doing the same thing over and over again, especially if I feel like it's not anything that's not beneficial, that it's not helping me kind of it's not.
You're not seeing it. It's something so I feel like the paperwork process, especially for what I do, I don't like paperwork process to get it right, but I had to learn how to love it because that's how I make my money, right?
Exactly.
And so there's a thin line though, because it still falls on you.
Yes.
It still falls on you. I'm here for the support of it. So did you feel like how did you delegate it? As you're transitioning into, oh shit, there's this paperwork process and there's these things that I don't like and I still want to be hands-on with my properties. How did you delegate those responsibilities? And again, advice-wise, how would you tell the new investor where they should look to delegate that responsibility?
Right. So early on, I just realized I needed an attorney.
Okay.
Especially dealing with real estate, I try to do a lot of things in-house and call people I knew who was doing it, and then get their advice on how to fill out certain papers, and other people who they knew were doing it. But a lot of my stuff ended up getting kind of mixed up. Okay. Because I should have just called an attorney from the beginning.
From the gate.
From the gate.
So attorney was like the one that was like your intro into like, my shit is aligned the way it needs to be.
So my first word of advice into any business is just call an attorney. I tell everybody from the beginning, just get with an attorney, get all of your paperwork right, and whenever you have an issue, let your attorney advise you, because that's what they're there for.
Right.
Let them advise you on who to go to for this, who to go to for that. Whether it's your accounting situation, whether it's if you need a manager, if you need somebody to deal with HR, go to your attorney. And that's what I messed up at in the beginning. I tried to depend too much on my network and not go outside my network and really get the proper professionals.
Well, the thing is, I feel like going outside of your network is just like transitioning from high school to the next, whatever it is that you're doing. It's a scary thing. Yeah, it's a scary thing. So how did you find your attorney? And after that, I'm gonna dive. We're gonna get just straight into what we've been able to work on together. Mm-hmm. But that attorney piece is so important because that's the person that's gonna make sure you're good on your end.
Right, exactly.
Every time. So how did you find her? And advice to where people should go to find a good attorney, whether it's in New York or nationwide.
Right. So I actually found that attorney through one of my mom's friends.
Okay.
Because they were like heavy into like like the courts and everything. So I was like, you know, who's the best attorney for kind of this situation that I got going on versus all my other business.
So it's still the people right in that same
Yeah,
circle
in that
that you
circle,
cultivated.
but yeah,
Yeah,
Instead
okay.
of just getting advice from them, I'm like, just point me to the person that I can hire and put on my team to kind of help me get all my stuff in order.
So, that's big. Being able to be the coach, be the boss, be at the helm of everything that you're doing, you're still gonna need people from, the people that raised you,
Right.
the people that you come across, the people that whatever. You're gonna always have to ask questions to get help. So, people, as you're putting your real estate investing dreams together, just know everybody around you has a part into who you've become. So those people around you, you should feel more comfortable than just outsourcing and Googling your local attorney and Googling anything. Talk to the people around you first because they know you the best and they help groom you to who you are. I think that's a big part. And I feel like even myself, I've become victim of, well, I'm getting older now. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing my own thing. I'm making my own money. It don't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter how much money you make. Rather, it's just, home is where you'll always be able to go back to, learn, as long as you can look at the product and see you're doing the right thing. You should always be able to go back to home.
And don't burn bridges.
And don't burn bridges.
Right.
Don't burn bridges. Like I've burnt bridges in my life that I wish that I could go back in time and fix, right? But that's the learning curve, because I'm hard, we're all hard-headed in some sense. And we talked about where your downfall was to come up, but now let's focus into New Jersey, because since the moment we connected, you had solid deals. We were talking about equity of 150 plus a deal, not to put your business out there.
Right. No, that's okay.
But so you're making good money, you're making great money. How did that happen? How did it happen where now you're in Jersey, one of the hottest markets, you're knocking deals out?
How it happened was this. I realized early on into real estate that I didn't have the right team.
Okay.
So I had the guys around me, I had the people around me, but it didn't feel like I had the help.
Okay.
Right? So once I kind of like met with my attorney and then I got with my accountant, everybody, and she's just like, listen, you're doing a lot of stuff, but for everything you're doing, you have to bring in more money. If you're not able to bring in more money, you have to cut back on what you're doing and then just focus more into one or two things, right?
Got you.
So that's kind of a spinoff to where I started my retail business, Transfit Apparel, right?
Okay.
So from Transfit Apparel, I got the Transfit store in Brooklyn, and then from there,
Where is it exactly in Brooklyn?
Flushing and Troop, 693 Flushing Avenue.
Okay, so you got Transfit, that's workout gear.
Yeah, so athletic
everyday.
and athleisure apparel.
Okay.
So now it's like I'm no longer waiting on a house to flip. I have day-to-day money coming in from my store, right? And from my store, I realized that, okay, the store is great, but now you have a problem dealing with inventory, dealing with employees, keeping up with everything as far as where the store's going, right? Okay. So I'm like, okay, what's the next business that we can kind of bring in that's also related to real estate?
Gotcha.
Bring in that, because Transfit, okay, of course it's the store, you're dealing with more real estate, right? So then I started doing event spaces. Okay. So more real estate.
The last space we went to, where was that?
Yeah, so that one, that's Canvas Collectives, that's on Broadway Avenue, 668 Broadway.
And it's a nice space.
Yeah.
You got the kitchen in there. You got a private area for the back.
Right.
And then you got the common area. So it's good for birthdays. It's good for where the real estate eye taps in. You see it and automatically know it's useful. So that was what helped you offset your bills, offset the headaches, offset everything.
And then also build up the bankroll to kind of transition back into Jersey.
Got you.
Even though people felt like I dipped out of real estate, I didn't. I invested in the stores. I invested in the event spaces, and all of that is real estate.
That goal never changed.
Exactly.
Jersey never changed. It's just you just made a slight right.
Exactly. Build that up, invest in more real estate. So then, by the time I made it to Jersey, I dipped back to my same people who were kind of already in it, and kind of like put the incentive out there. Like, let's work together. Like, this is what I got going. These are the deals that I'm looking for, and I wasn't looking, I felt like a lot of the things that I kind of focus on, people look past.
Okay.
Like, I don't want to go to the high-end areas. Okay. I don't want the areas that's kind of like the most known. Okay. I don't need anything that's kind of like the lipstick job that you could just come in, slap paint on the wall, and make 30,000.
Gotcha.
I want the stuff that's fairly priced.
You want to do the work?
Yeah, I'm gonna do the work. I'm gonna get in the mud, and I just want the gains to be there. You know.
Got you.
So
Got you.
that's how I kind of.
So you're approaching it the same way you approached the last couple of ventures. It's just like you have a goal in mind.
Right.
You're not trying to stray away from it. And even though you're not focused on the high end, this is what's going to propel you into the next of whatever you're doing. Exactly. So as far as you said, getting into Jersey, the type of deals that that you saw that you liked, how complex are those deals? Because they're way more complex than Albany now.
Right. Yeah.
Now we're talking about way more than $20,000, $40,000 worth of work.
Right.
How did you cope, and how did you put that team together? Because you talked about putting the team together, but you said the downfall in the city was the team. So how did you put that?
So what happened was, it was like I said in the beginning when I was doing construction, when I was already working here.
Right.
So I was kind of able to come back and then dive back in with those guys who were already still in construction, and then kind of bring each one of those guys kind of with me to do jobs.
Okay.
And what I did before I actually came to Jersey was I started my own contracting company.
Gotcha.
Right?
And is that the same contracting company that you have?
I have now.
So it's Canvas contracting.
Canvas contracting.
Okay, gotcha.
So this was my thing. Like I said from before also, you learn it first before you could kind of teach it and delegate it, right?
Yeah.
So I said, all right, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get the contracting company first before I go in to buy the houses. I'm gonna do other people's jobs first.
Because that's the part that's the toughest part.
Right.
That's where the equity is. So
Right.
you're taking on voluntarily. Well, you're making money,
Right.
but you're taking on the hardest part first before you have to worry about.
Before I have to worry about owing somebody for the
Gotcha.
house. And then now I'm kind of learning the areas. I'm figuring out, all right, who's doing what to what houses to bring it up to speed, to kind of build the equity in it. The potential that's in each area. I'm learning that in the field. You can't learn that from on Zillow. You can't learn that on Redfin. You can't Google it. You have to be there. And there was no other way for me to kind of get in the mud and kind of be inside of these houses in these areas. So I started the contracting company, and I went out there and started doing job by job until I was kind of, I felt like I was confident enough to kind of like push myself along. Right. And then through that process, I actually had a decent team, and I brought some guys with me from the city. I put it together, and then it was just no looking back.
So again, it's a tedious. We talk about that instant gratification, right? Of the time we live in, social media, whatever it is. You just like when you were working on the first house, and introduced to that guy you were working, got on, put the team together. It's a tedious process, guys, and I think. If you're a real estate investor, you have to understand that just because you can find a deal, just because you can get a deal under contract doesn't necessarily mean that you're absolutely ready. Because there's so many things post that has to happen that will save you money, a lot of money, and it'll save you time, and it won't kill your spirit. A lot of times people walk into this game backwards. Not taking into consideration your journey, and then they think, oh no, this shit is not for me. But it's just like you were just approached it wrong. Yeah. You just approached it wrong. So that right there requires a different type of perseverance, and it requires a different type of hustle to want it more, because it's not just about the money, it's always about the journey. Yeah. So now that you got the team together, that you're equipped to take on the Jersey product, projects. Right now, as it stands, we've closed maybe north of like 7 deals. Right. What is it now that what's a good deal for you? What's a bad deal for you?
For me, what it takes to kind of get into the deal, I gotta kind of go see where the property's located. Okay. That's a big thing. But before that, I feel like you gotta go in with a mindset. Okay. So my mindset is.
What would you call that mindset? If you had to call that mindset under a principle that you had to live by, what would you call that?
I would say that mindset is kind of security.
Security.
I would just call it security, right? Okay. Because it's like, for one, you're putting up money, you're putting up time, you're investing in the communities there, and you kind of want to make sure that the end goal is you being able to make money off that product give somebody a decent place to live, or worst case, you can offload that product if anything arises. So you kind of want to go into that securely, knowing that you can get in and out without kind of putting yourself in a harmful situation, you know?
So basically, if you're trying to do and sit where you're sitting, you're telling people, liquid, having the cash, having the flexibility is what really fuels anything that fire, right? So a lot of times I get people, they see a house and they see 15% on my page, right? They'll see 15% and they think, I'm giving 15%, right? So as far as construction goes, because construction is usually what hurts that front end on it. When you see a project that needs extensive work, how do you make sure that you're not overselling or overspending rather? What is it? What's that process like? Because if you don't know how to do that, then everything that you just said kind of goes null and void.
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, just to answer also your last question with the security thing, right? So I go into the area with security knowing that I want to go to an area and find a house that I would potentially want to live in, or I would want my family to live in. You know?
Okay, so it gets personal.
Right. So because it's like I don't want to buy a house somewhere and then it's like the numbers are great, but then I can't turn around and sell that house.
Got you.
Because now I'm stuck with that product.
Got you.
You know?
Got you.
I don't want to get a house and I realize that it's only $30,000.
So not all good money is good money.
Yeah,
you have to see it for yourself, for you, in order to be able to do it. I mean, that's reality. I mean, sometimes like, people, they'll buy out of state. So how do you approach that? Because if you're from your perception in Jersey, how do you apply it from state to state to know? Is it just a team that you're working with that's going to bring it to life, or what is it?
But for me, I would recommend just flying there.
Just flying there?
The same principles, so...
back and forth, just back and forth.
Yeah, so you want to accept the same principles kind of everywhere, you know? So you go into it kind of with the education first of knowing what needs to be done. Second, with the security of knowing, all right, this is a decent area that have all of the perks that could kind of help me get this house put together and get back on the market. I can manage the work that's here because I've did it before, or I have the team that did it before and I trust them. Okay. Keyword, done it before.
Done it before.
Not, I'm just gonna buy this house and then find somebody on the fly.
Yeah, that's because Tom, you got the per diem. So talk about those costs once you get something under contract. That why you can't sit on shit. Because why is it, talk about that, hey, if you've done it before, why is that so important as it pertains to the financials?
Okay, yeah. So, like I said, so you find a decent area, you make sure you have all of the perks, you make sure you're able to handle the work, you know what needs to be done, start to finish, you can see yourself exiting out of the project in a positive way. You have the backup plan because you know that you're in a decent area where the house is gonna sell, or if it can't sell, you're able to offload it, right? Okay. But then it's times where you get stuck. And when you get stuck, you still have property taxes that you gotta pay. People don't realize this. You still gotta pay a mortgage every month on this house. Right. You know? You still gotta cover your contracting fees. Now, if you're not pushing forward in the process, you can't get out draws on your money from the lender to be able to keep paying. So it's a lot. It's a lot to juggle. There's a lot of moving pieces. So you want to go in there real secure and start off really, really small. You know, if it's a bungalow, start off there. You know, at the most basic level, build the confidence, build the team, and in between, you're gonna learn all the little nuances of what comes with the paperwork, of what can possibly set you back on bigger deals. Okay. You want to learn that on a smaller scales. Got you. You know, and as you learn that on the smaller scales, when you get to the bigger deals, there's no longer a setback. Right. You know, because you know how to come at it, you know how to kind of position off of it, and how to approach it. How to approach it. So, again, I want to highlight, guys, the mentality towards everything that, whether it was the store, whether it was the parties, whether it was the stores, whether it's the venue locations, whether it's real estate, it seems to be that same approach where I'm going to stronghold this myself. I'm going to take on responsibilities for me, but I'm also going to delegate, and I'm also going to mitigate what makes sense for not only me, my team, my money, my patience, my time. So that's a big thing, that whether you're investing in real estate or not,
you have to understand that there's going to be things that people are not going to want to talk about at face value. And the only thing that makes or breaks that good investor or bad investor is the mindset that you're approaching it with. Okay, so you're walking into every situation of your life with a unique, open-minded eye outside of what you already know. Right. Okay, so you can apply that now. And again, I want to thank you for coming and talking about what that mindset takes, what it entails, the whole nine. And I want to dive into that legacy part now. I want to dive into that book, because our book is all we can't take anything with us. Right. Can't take shit with us. So that legacy, that book, coupled with the real estate, coupled with what you've been through, what does that look like for you? Down the line, you got your daughter here. What does that mean to you? What does that look like?
For me, it looks like kind of taking everything that I kind of, like you said, that I went through, that I've been through, being able to kind of set the foundation for them. Okay. And kind of take everything, like I call this ABCs, you know? So everything, like every business is kind of like the ABCs. Gotcha. And then at the end, you kind of learn how to speak, you learn how to write, and you learn how to do everything, you know? So I just kind of want to set that foundation for them. So when it's like I get to the age to where they could kind of take over everything, it's like I'm leaving something that they kind of feel like is, you know,
it's reachable.
It's reachable.
Attainable.
It's obtainable. Yeah. It's showing them that, you know, you don't gotta go out there and do what everybody else is doing, you know? So I'm just kind of setting this foundation. So whether they want to do a business, whether they want to do fashion, no matter what it is, just keep the same principles. Yeah. Go
that
at
security
it
principle.
The same principles, go at it in the same way. You know, even if you got the talent, you gotta have the drive, you gotta have the motivation, you gotta have the discipline, build the proper team. This is not just real estate. Yeah. This is no matter what the field is.
You gotta apply it to all across.
You gotta apply these same principles, and that's gonna get you to those points. And at no time do we talk about money, because if you apply the right principles, the money will come. The money's gonna come. Yeah. You know, it's just like I woke up one day and I'm just like, wow, like you doing the math with your accountant and you can't believe it, you know? But that doesn't come from working for more money. Yeah. That comes from putting together a better team, better situations, learning how to pick better deals, learning how to vet out proper contractors, and you know, so
all of the tedious things.
Yeah.
The little things. Mm-hmm. The little things. So I watched, me and my fiance watched Little Things by Denzel. Okay. And I think you gotta watch it to understand that it's always gonna be the little things that'll affect everything that you just said as a highlight for you, man. And I've from the moment that I've come in contact with you and we've done business together, I've only seen you grow, and I've only seen you put your team together so that everything that you just said is applied. So it's not you're not just saying this to say it. So I think everybody that's on that verge of becoming a real estate investor, if it's something that you want to do, if it's something that you see and it's something that you're trying to put together, understand that started for Laquan as just being that kid from that matriarchal family that just saw people that were doing things that he naturally gravitated to. Okay, so it's doable, but understand that from there, as you go on, you're gonna fail more than you succeed, right? You're gonna fail a lot more than you succeed. You're gonna pay these little. You're gonna have to come out of pocket for the bigger picture, right? At the end of the day, and you're gonna possibly lose friends, and you're gonna possibly put a team together while losing those friends that could change your life and your children's life for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life. So the mentality to get into any game, and this show is focused on real estate investing, but understand that perseverance, identifying your gifts and your uniqueness is more important than any degree, any amount of money, any trade-off that you'll get, because that stuff is priceless. And that stuff will line up and help that discipline that you talked about, and that help you secure that principle of security. So my main point of this show is to get people to understand just that. And you can see someone that a couple of boroughs over from me applying the same things that I feel like I apply, just in my different reality, to be successful. So we're gonna have a video, segue from this video, where we're gonna watch one of your properties on Grove Street. So talk about that property.
You watch Brookside.
On Brookside, on Brookside. Talk about Brookside, how you locked in Brookside. If you're interested in purchasing Brookside, if you're looking for a home in Jersey, Where do people need to go? What are they looking at? How to make that happen?
Okay, yeah, so all of my information, you can find me at BrooklynQuan, spelled out Brooklyn, Quan. And I have most of all my flips and stuff on there. And then from there, you could check out my contractor page. And on my bio, it's all my other pages and my link up there to reach me. And as far as the Brookside deal, I got that through a fellow partner.
Okay.
And they brought me onto that deal because they had somebody who's actually supposed to get that deal,
Okay.
but they couldn't fulfill on it quick enough.
Remember
And
yeah.
so I knew that I would be able to fulfill on it quick enough, but it was just about, having those funds on hand to kind of shift it in and kind of get the deal done.
Funds, what are we talking about for purchase price? What are we talking about for rehab and potential ARV? And what did we get on ARV on Brookside on the appraisal?
I think that the appraisal came back at 400K.
400.
The
Was that
purchase price.
did that align?
That
wasn't.
It was pretty close.
Okay. Okay.
I was pushing for kind of 430.
Okay.
So 400 wasn't that bad because I still know on the sell I would get the 430.
You would get that. Got you.
And especially with this competitive market right now.
Got you.
Like the price gonna get bid up.
Got you.
The purchase price was about 250.
Okay.
And then for me, I don't buy homes where it's just like, well, I get homes where it's like it needs 30, 40,000 in work, but I don't mind taking on a $80,000, $100,000 projects because I have the team to be
In
able
place
to,
already.
to
Yeah.
get those projects done within 3 to 6 weeks. So I got that renovation done actually in just under 5 weeks.
You did.
Yeah.
You did. So during the pandemic 2020, we were able to, I wasn't working at a location anymore. I'm working independently. So I'm building my independent thing and you're building your independent thing. And I'm watching, none of my borrowers, none of them at the time were even close to getting the property, getting the rehab and flipping them as fast as you.
Right.
Still to this day. So everything that we're talking about, and it'll be other borrowers that we have on the show that you'll talk to and see that it's still not the same time. So that journey that Laquan's talking about, understand that those are the things that helped him be a standout. You know what I'm saying? Be a standout, even if you don't know it. Even if you don't know it, you know what I'm saying? You're standing out. You're moving quickly. So just highlight that. Yeah. And I wanna again thank you for coming through. I want to thank you for coming through, and you already gave us a principle. You gave us one principle. Before we kind of break away, what is it, are those other principles, those new principles that you've learned that keeps your fire going, that keeps you, waking up early, that keeps you, motivated? What are those things, those principles, and what would it be advice for people to think about as far as putting principles together for themselves that'll help them, whether if you're not motivated to get that motivation or whatever it is? So yeah.
For me, I would say the passion. People say, everybody has a passion to do things, right?
Okay.
So it's like, oh, I got the passion, I want to be a cook, I want to be a chef, I want to do this, I want to do that. But what I see is the lack of them implementing the process. So if you take too long to implement the process, you're going to lose the passion anyway. So I see people waiting, oh, I'm going to save another 10,000. I'm going to wait till I get my credit score to 750. I'm going to wait till my other two friends are ready. But then by the time they're ready, you lose that passion, you lose that drop. So for me, it's like every day I wake up, it's like no matter if I'm on 100 or if I'm on 90, then I'm just gonna give it that 90.
Right.
Because if I say I'm just gonna sleep and then wait till I feel 100, I'm gonna lose that drive and that passion. So that's my biggest thing.
Gotcha.
So even if you're not ready, get out there and do it, learn in the process. Because your fire is going to be able to kind of push you through those stuck points, and you're going to be willing to learn and get through them.
Right.
But if you don't got the passion and the drive, when you get to those stuck points, you're going to quit.
Yeah, you're going to quit. Because
so what's the point?
It already looks like the bottom.
Exactly.
It feels like the bottom.
It feels like you're on the bottom, and you're just like, it's over.
So it's one more. So you got security, we got passion, we got to end it with one more principle, and then I'll segue us out of here.
Okay, so my other big thing would be, I would say the
on the spot. You're on the spot.
Devotion.
Okay.
It would be like my biggest principle would be devotion.
Staying down, staying committed.
Just being able to kind of like as you see through this whole interview, we went from one business to the next, but I stayed devoted.
Yeah.
You know? And then you mentioned about the circle, you lose these friends, you gain others. Because those are the people that devoted to their craft,
right.
You know?
Right.
You know, you got
still
your camera
some
guy
sense
here,
of devotion.
right?
Yeah,
You got your camera guy here, you got your construction team there, you got your attorney, you got your realtors. Everybody's devoted on their own path, you know? And if they weren't devoted on their own path, you wouldn't have ever met them. And if you wouldn't have kept following through, chasing your passion, you wouldn't have met them, you know? So to me, it's like just to stay devoted, your first business or your first endeavor may not be the end for all, but it's gonna definitely set you up for the next one.
Staying down is gonna set you up.
Exactly. So you stay down till you come up, you stay devoted, and let that just keep pushing you through. And eventually you're gonna end up where you're meant to be, even if it's not where you thought you would be. Know when to pivot, and when one thing is kind of pulling you more than the next. So it's like you could start off one business as a clothing business, but then realize you really don't have the passion for clothing. You're bigger as a designer. Right. Your designs are just fire, but you don't have the passion to really sell. Yeah. So you could become the biggest designer. But if you want to stay devoted, right? Exactly. Stay devoted. So you stay devoted. You're gonna find out what your real passion is there. Keep the fire going. With that, you're gonna build the right teams, keep the right people around you, and everything you really want in life should manifest.
I love the last one, devotion. I think, so like, principles to me are big because I feel like we don't get the credit that's deserved when it comes to just being a young black man, that we have our principles, no matter if it mirrors or if it's different, we have things that we live by. So those three principles, security, you said passion and devotion, those are three things that are all completely free. It doesn't take any type of investment. It doesn't take any type of anything. It just takes the journey applied, the action applied to everything else, right? Yeah. So principles, guys. What are your principles? If you're an investor in anything, especially real estate, what are your principles? What is it that's going to keep you going? What is it that's going to keep your team together? What is it that's going to keep you level-headed enough to make decisions under duress? Because without any principles, those things is easy, like you said, to walk away.
Yeah, you're gonna quit.
You're gonna quit. You're gonna break down. So I think the biggest thing that we want to do now is just focus on those principles, focus on our journeys, focus on keeping them circles together, and knowing that we have whoever you are, if you have the mindset to invest in something and do something bigger than what you're used to, just know that those people that raised you have a big part in helping you understand how to make decisions, okay? So, Laquan, I appreciate you coming through. I appreciate you. If you want to see the video of Brookside, we're going to have a link for that video just so you can see what the process was like and what it looks like now. And if you're interested in purchasing it, he has a realtor, the whole nine. And if you want to contact him, you want to give him your IG one more time?
Yeah, at BrooklynQuan, you can find all my information there, the process on all my flips, everything we got going on. We also teach you how to do flips, so it's a lot more to it. Just come get the information. We got it for free.
And he does the start the flip events.
Inside the flip.
Inside the flip.
And the flip trip.
Flip field trip inside the flip. So you have different outlets once you follow them that you'll be able to come out to just to get around that vibe, right. Just to get those principles, to be around those principles. And I appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
Guys, the biggest thing we want to take from this is perseverance. We want to take from the journey. We want to take from the optics to see that it's applicable to everybody. Okay, it's not delegated to any specific race, social class, financial, any of that shit. It's just all about realizing your surroundings and how to realize your gifts and apply it to whatever industry you're into. So we're gonna close it on that. Manifest your dreams. We'll be back next week with another episode.